The snow stung my face like tiny needles, each flake a reminder of the betrayal that had left me stranded outside St. Mary's Hospital, clutching my newborn daughter, Lily, to my chest. My breaths came in shallow gasps, the cold seeping through my thin hospital gown as I stood alone in the parking lot, abandoned by the man who'd vowed to love me forever. Just hours ago, I'd given birth, and now, here I was, a new mother, forsaken in the biting December wind. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. After 9 months of anticipation, doctor's visits, and shared dreams with my husband, Ethan, I'd held our daughter for the first time. Her tiny fingers curled around mine, her soft coos filling the sterile hospital room with warmth. Ethan had been there, smiling, his green eyes bright with pride, or so I thought. He'd kissed my forehead, promised to pull the car around, and left me to gather our things. But he never came back. I waited in that hospital room for hours, Lily swaddled in my arms, my body aching from labor. The nurses exchanged pitying glances as I called Ethan's phone, each unanswered ring tightening the knot in my stomach. By evening, a social worker gently suggested I might need to arrange another way home. Humiliation burned my cheeks as I realized the truth. Ethan had left us. No note, no explanation, just gone. With no family nearby and no money for a cab, I stumbled into the snowy parking lot, clutching Lily, praying for a miracle. The hospital's neon sign flickered above, casting a cold glow over the empty lot. My legs trembled, not just from the cold, but from the weight of betrayal. Ethan and I had been married for 5 years, college sweethearts who'd built a life together in Seattle. We'd planned for Lily, painted her nursery a soft lavender, and laughed about who she'd resemble more. How could he do this? What had I missed? The questions swirled like the snow around me, but Lily's soft whimpers pulled me back. She needed me to be strong. A stranger's voice broke through the haze. "Ma'am, are you okay?" It was a woman, maybe in her 50s, bundled in a red coat, her car idling nearby. Her name was Clara, a night shift nurse who'd just finished her rounds. She took one look at me, shivering, tear-streaked, holding a newborn, and didn't hesitate. "Come with me," she said, guiding me to her car. As we drove to her small apartment, Clara didn't pry, but her kindness was a lifeline. She gave us a place to stay, a warm bottle for Lily, and a shoulder to cry on. That night, as Lily slept in a borrowed crib, I sat on Clara's couch, staring at my phone. Ethan's last text, sent days ago, read, "Can't wait to meet our girl." I scrolled through our photos, our wedding, our hiking trips, the ultrasound images we'd pored over together. The man I loved wouldn't do this. But he had, and I needed answers. The next morning, I called Ethan's sister, Rachel, hoping she'd know something. Her voice was heavy with guilt. "Emma, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "He's been distant. I didn't want to worry you during the pregnancy." She hesitated, then dropped the bomb. Ethan had been seeing someone else. A coworker named Vanessa, who'd been at his office's holiday party. Rachel had seen them together. Too close, too secretive, but she'd hoped it was nothing. My heart sank. This wasn't just abandonment, it was betrayal. I thanked Rachel and hung up, my hands shaking. Clara, overhearing, handed me a cup of tea. "You don't have to face this alone," she said. "There's a legal aid clinic downtown. They can help." Her words sparked something in me, a flicker of resolve. Ethan had left us in the cold, but I wouldn't let him destroy us. For Lily's sake, I'd fight. The legal aid office was a cramped room filled with weary faces, but the attorney, Sarah, was a force. A no-nonsense woman in her 40s, she listened as I poured out my story, her pen flying across her notepad. "We'll file for emergency custody and support," she said, "and we'll track him down." Sarah's confidence was contagious, but fear gnawed at me. What if Ethan fought back? What if he didn't want Lily at all? Over the next week, I stayed with Clara, piecing together my next steps. Sarah's team found Ethan at a hotel downtown, registered under his name and Vanessa's. The confirmation hit like a punch, but it also fueled my determination. I wasn't just fighting for me now, I was fighting for my daughter's future. Sarah filed the papers, and we waited for Ethan to respond. Days later, a letter arrived from Ethan's lawyer. He wasn't contesting custody, he didn't want it. But he was refusing to pay child support, claiming he'd lost his job. The lie stung. I knew he was still working. Rachel had confirmed it. The audacity of his denial, after abandoning us, lit a fire in me. I wasn't just hurt, I was angry, and that anger carried me forward. Clara drove me to the courthouse for the first hearing. I held Lily close, her warmth grounding me as we faced Ethan across the room. He wouldn't meet my eyes, his face a mask of indifference. Vanessa wasn't there, but her presence lingered, a shadow over our broken vows. The judge, a stern but fair woman named Judge Harper, reviewed the case. "Mr. Carter," she said, her voice cutting through the silence, "you have a legal and moral obligation to your child. Explain yourself." Ethan mumbled something about financial hardship, but his words rang hollow. Judge Harper's eyes narrowed, and she adjourned the hearing, ordering a financial audit. As we left, Sarah squeezed my arm. "We've got this," she said. For the first time in days, I believed her. That night, back at Clara's, I rocked Lily to sleep, whispering promises I'd keep no matter what. Ethan had abandoned us, but I wouldn't let his betrayal define our story. Justice was coming, and I'd make sure of it. The weeks that followed were a blur of sleepless nights and relentless determination. Lily's cries filled Clara's small apartment, each one a reminder of the life I was fighting for. I'd wake at dawn, feed her, and then pore over legal documents with Sarah, preparing for the next court date. Ethan's refusal to acknowledge his responsibility gnawed at me, but it also sharpened my resolve. He'd left us in the cold, but I'd make sure he faced the consequences. Sarah's investigation uncovered the truth. Ethan hadn't lost his job. He was still a project manager at his tech firm, pulling a six-figure salary. The financial hardship claim was a lie, and his hotel stay with Vanessa proved he wasn't exactly scraping by. Sarah filed for backdated child support and alimony, arguing that Ethan's abandonment constituted emotional and financial neglect. "We'll hit him where it hurts," she said, her eyes gleaming with strategy. I trusted her, but the weight of confronting Ethan in court loomed large. Clara became my rock. She'd come home from her hospital shifts with groceries, stories, and unwavering support. One evening, as we shared a pizza, she told me about her own past, a marriage that ended when her husband walked out after their son was born. "I thought I'd never recover," she admitted, her voice soft. "But I did. And you will too, Emma." Her words were a lifeline, pulling me from the edge of despair. Meanwhile, Rachel kept me updated on Ethan. She'd confronted him, demanding answers, but he'd brushed her off, claiming I'd overreacted. Overreacted? The word burned. I'd been left holding our newborn in a snowy parking lot, and he had the gall to dismiss it. Rachel, torn between loyalty to her brother and horror at his actions, promised to testify, if needed. Her support meant everything, but it also deepened my sense of betrayal. How had the man I loved become this stranger? The second court hearing was brutal. Ethan showed up in a tailored suit, his demeanor polished but cold. He avoided looking at me or Lily, who slept in a carrier beside me. His lawyer argued that Ethan's temporary lapse didn't justify the excessive support I was requesting. Temporary lapse? I wanted to scream. Sarah, calm and calculated, presented evidence of Ethan's income, hotel receipts, and even social media posts showing him with Vanessa at a swanky restaurant days after Lily's birth. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Judge Harper leaned forward, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Carter," she said, "your actions suggest a deliberate choice to abandon your family. This court will not tolerate such evasion." She ordered a temporary support order, $2,000 a month for Lily and me, pending a full financial review. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. As we left, Sarah whispered, "That's a win, Emma. He's on the ropes." But victory felt hollow. I didn't want Ethan's money. I wanted the life we'd planned, the family we'd dreamed of. At Clara's that night, I broke down, sobbing as Lily nursed. Clara sat beside me, her hand on my shoulder. "You're not just fighting for money," she said. "You're fighting for Lily's future. And you're showing her what strength looks like." Her words sank in, steadying me. This wasn't about revenge, it was about justice. I started rebuilding, piece by piece. Clara helped me find a part-time job at a local bookstore, where I could bring Lily. The owner, A kind woman named Margaret let me work the register while Lily napped in a bassinet behind the counter. The routine gave me purpose, a small anchor in the storm. Customers, unaware of my story, cooed over Lily, their kindness a reminder that the world wasn't all cruel. Then came a breakthrough. Sarah called with news. Vanessa, Ethan's mistress, had reached out to her office. Apparently, Ethan had lied to her too, claiming he was separated when they started their affair. Vanessa was furious, feeling betrayed herself, and wanted to meet me. I hesitated. Meeting the woman who'd helped shatter my marriage felt like walking into a trap. But Sarah urged me to hear her out. She might have information we can use, she said. I agreed to meet Vanessa at a quiet coffee shop. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe mid-20s, with nervous eyes and a fidgety demeanor. I didn't know, she said, her voice breaking. He told me you two were done, that you'd agreed to part ways. She showed me texts from Ethan, painting a false picture of our marriage's end. My stomach churned, but I saw her pain too. She'd been manipulated, just like me. Vanessa offered to provide a statement for the court, detailing Ethan's lies. It wasn't much, but it was another piece of the puzzle. As I left the coffee shop, pushing Lily's stroller, I felt a strange mix of anger and relief. Ethan's web of deceit was unraveling, and I wasn't alone in wanting him to face the truth. Back at Clara's, I prepared for the next hearing, my heart heavier, but my purpose clearer. Ethan had tried to erase us, but Lily and I were still here, fighting. And with every step, I felt justice drawing closer. The bookstore became my sanctuary, its shelves of stories a quiet refuge from the chaos of my life. Each morning, I'd arrive with Lily, her tiny gurgles blending with the soft rustle of pages. Margaret, the owner, taught me to balance the books, and the work steadied me, giving me a sense of control. But every night, as I rocked Lily to sleep, Ethan's betrayal replayed in my mind, a wound that refused to heal. Sarah's team was relentless, digging deeper into Ethan's finances. They found offshore accounts he'd hidden, small but damning evidence of his attempt to dodge responsibility. Sarah filed a motion to freeze his assets, arguing that his deceit warranted severe measures. He's playing games, she told me over coffee. But we're playing to win. Her confidence bolstered mine, but I couldn't shake the fear of what Ethan might do next. Would he fight harder? Or disappear entirely? Clara, ever the optimist, kept me grounded. One evening, as we folded Lily's tiny clothes, she shared more of her story. After her husband left, she'd rebuilt her life as a single mother, eventually becoming a nurse to help others. You're stronger than you know, she said, her eyes warm. Lily's lucky to have you. Her words were a balm, but they couldn't erase the ache of Ethan's absence or the anger at his lies. Rachel called with more news. Ethan had moved in with Vanessa, but their relationship was unraveling. Vanessa's statement to Sarah had caused a rift, and Rachel overheard Ethan ranting about everyone turning against him. I felt a flicker of satisfaction, but it was fleeting. I didn't want Ethan's misery, I wanted accountability. Rachel agreed to testify about his behavior, her loyalty to me and Lily outweighing her bond with her brother. The third hearing was a turning point. Sarah presented the offshore accounts, Vanessa's statement, and Rachel's testimony about Ethan's lies. The courtroom felt electric, every word a step toward justice. Ethan's lawyer scrambled, claiming the accounts were old and unrelated to our case, but Judge Harper wasn't buying it. She ordered a forensic accountant to investigate, her voice sharp with authority. Mr. Carter, this court will not be manipulated, she said. Ethan's face paled, and for the first time, I saw cracks in his composure. As we left the courthouse, Sarah was jubilant. He's cornered, she said. The accountant will find everything. But Ethan's cold stare lingered in my mind. He hadn't spoken to me, hadn't even looked at Lily. His indifference was a knife, cutting deeper than his betrayal. I held my daughter closer, vowing to protect her from his neglect. Life at the bookstore grew busier. Margaret promoted me to assistant manager, a small raise that let me start saving for an apartment. Customers began recognizing me, their smiles a reminder that I was building a new community. One regular, an older man named Tom, brought Lily a tiny knit hat, his eyes crinkling with kindness. You're doing great, kid, he said. Those small gestures carried me through the darker moments. Vanessa reached out again, this time with an apology. "I ended things with Ethan," she said over the phone. "He's not who I thought he was." She sounded broken, and I felt a pang of empathy. We'd both been deceived, though in different ways. I thanked her for her honesty, and we agreed to stay in touch. Her statement had strengthened our case, and I was grateful, even if the pain of her role lingered. Clara suggested I start therapy to process the trauma. I was hesitant, money was tight, and opening old wounds felt daunting, but she connected me with a free clinic. My first session was raw, tears spilling as I recounted the hospital parking lot, Ethan's disappearance, and the fear of raising Lily alone. The therapist, a gentle woman named Dr. Lee, listened without judgment. "You're surviving," she said. "That's strength." Slowly, I began to believe her. The forensic accountant's report came in just before the next hearing. Ethan had hidden over $50,000 in offshore accounts, siphoned from his bonuses over the past year. Sarah was thrilled, but I felt sick. That money could have paid for Lily's formula, her clothes, our future. Instead, Ethan had chosen to fund his new life with Vanessa. The betrayal cut deeper, but it also hardened my resolve. The fourth hearing loomed, and I prepared myself for the fight. Sarah warned that Ethan's lawyer might try to paint me as unstable, a tactic to reduce his obligations. I spent nights rehearsing my testimony, determined to stay calm. Clara and Rachel rallied around me, their support a shield against Ethan's lies. Lily, now smiling and cooing, was my reason to keep going. As the hearing approached, I felt a shift. The fear that had gripped me since that snowy night was giving way to something fiercer, determination. Ethan had tried to break us, but Lily and I were stronger. Justice wasn't just a hope now, it was a promise I'd keep. The courtroom felt smaller this time, the air thick with anticipation. I sat with Lily in my arms, her tiny weight anchoring me as Ethan's lawyer launched into his defense. He painted me as an overwhelmed mother, suggesting my emotional instability had driven Ethan away. The words stung, but I held my head high, refusing to let his lies define me. Sarah's rebuttal was fierce, presenting my steady job at the bookstore and Clara's testimony about my resilience. Judge Harper's eyes softened as she looked at Lily, and I knew we were winning. The forensic accountant's report was the nail in Ethan's coffin. It detailed his hidden accounts, luxury purchases, and even a lease for a new apartment with Vanessa. Sarah argued that Ethan's actions showed willful abandonment and financial deceit. Judge Harper agreed, increasing the temporary support order to $3,500 a month and scheduling a final hearing to settle the divorce in custody. Ethan's face was a mask of defeat, but he still wouldn't look at us. His silence spoke louder than any excuse. Outside the courthouse, Rachel hugged me tightly. "I'm so sorry for what he's done," she whispered. Her testimony had been pivotal, detailing Ethan's lies and his refusal to take responsibility. I thanked her, tears in my eyes, grateful for her courage. She promised to visit Lily soon, eager to be the aunt our daughter deserved. For the first time, I felt a flicker of hope for a new kind of family, one built on trust, not betrayal. Back at Clara's, life began to feel lighter. The bookstore was thriving, and Margaret let me host a weekly story time for kids, with Lily giggling in my lap as I read. Customers loved it, and I found joy in those small moments, a reminder that I was more than Ethan's discarded wife. I was Lily's mother, a survivor, a woman carving her own path. Dr. Lee, my therapist, helped me process the anger, encouraging me to write letters to Ethan I'd never send. Pouring out my pain on paper was cathartic, freeing me from his shadow. Vanessa reached out again, this time to meet in person. We sat in the same coffee shop, her face pale and tired. She'd moved out of Ethan's apartment and was starting over, grappling with her own guilt. "I thought he loved me," she said, her voice small. "But he just used me to escape." I nodded, understanding her pain. We weren't friends, but we were allies in truth, both wounded by the same man. She offered to testify again if needed, and I thanked her, knowing her words could tip the scales. Sarah called with more news. Ethan's lawyer had proposed a settlement. He'd agreed to permanent custody for me and a lump sum for back support, but it was less than we'd demanded. Sarah advised rejecting it, confident we could win more in court. I agreed, trusting her judgment. The final hearing was set for a month away, and I spent every spare moment preparing, determined to secure Lily's future. Clara and I celebrated small victories. She helped me apply for a low-income apartment, and I was approved, a step toward independence. The place was small but cozy, with a sunny window perfect for Lily's crib. Moving day was emotional. Clara cried as she helped me pack, promising to visit often. "You've got this," she said, hugging me tightly. I believed her, but the fear of standing alone lingered. At the bookstore, Tom, the regular who'd given Lily the knit hat, became a friend. He was a retired lawyer, and over coffee, he shared stories of cases he'd won for single mothers like me. "You're tougher than most," he said, his eyes kind. He offered to review my case documents, pointing out clauses Sarah might strengthen. His support, like Clara's and Rachel's, reminded me I wasn't alone. The night before the final hearing, I couldn't sleep. I sat by Lily's crib, watching her breathe, her tiny chest rising and falling. Ethan had tried to erase us, but we were still here, stronger than ever. I thought of the hospital parking lot, the snow, the despair, and how far we'd come. Justice wasn't just about money or custody. It was about reclaiming our worth. The final hearing dawned bright and cold, a mirror of that awful night. I dressed Lily in a tiny sweater, kissed her forehead, and headed to the courthouse with Sarah. Ethan was there, alone, his bravado gone. Judge Harper took the bench, her presence commanding. As Sarah presented our case, I felt a surge of pride. This was our story, Lily's and mine, and we were writing the ending. Judge Harper's verdict was clear, full custody to me, with Ethan ordered to pay substantial child support and alimony, backdated to Lily's birth. The offshore accounts would be seized to cover it. Ethan's shoulders slumped, but I felt no pity, only relief. Justice had come, and it was ours. The gavel's echo lingered in my ears as I left the courthouse, Lily cradled in my arms. Judge Harper's verdict was more than a legal win. It was a reclamation of my dignity. Ethan's financial deceit had been exposed, his lies dismantled, and Lily's future secured. But as I stepped into the crisp Seattle air, the victory felt bittersweet. I'd won, but the scars of Ethan's betrayal would take longer to heal. Moving into the new apartment marked a fresh start. Clara helped me unpack, hanging a small painting of a sunflower above Lily's crib. "For hope," she said, her smile warm. The space was modest, but it was ours, a sanctuary where Lily's laughter filled the rooms. I'd lie awake at night, listening to her soft breaths, grateful for the stability we'd fought for. Yet, Ethan's absence still haunted me, a ghost I couldn't fully banish. At the bookstore, my storytime sessions grew popular, drawing families from across the neighborhood. Margaret gave me a raise, and I started saving for Lily's future, maybe a college fund, maybe a trip to see the world. Tom, the retired lawyer, became a regular at storytime, bringing his grandkids and slipping Lily tiny gifts, a rattle, a board book, a stuffed bunny. "You're building something special," he told me one day, his voice gruff with pride. His words fueled me, a reminder that I was more than a victim. Sarah checked in regularly, ensuring Ethan complied with the court order. The seized accounts covered the back support, and monthly payments began arriving. It wasn't about the money, it was about accountability. Ethan had tried to erase us, but the court had forced him to face his obligations. Still, he never reached out, never asked about Lily. His silence was a wound, but it also freed me. I didn't need his approval to be a good mother. Dr. Lee, my therapist, helped me navigate the emotional aftermath. In our sessions, I unpacked the hospital night, the betrayal, and the fear of raising Lily alone. "You're not just surviving," she said. "You're thriving." She encouraged me to journal, and I filled pages with my hopes for Lily, a life of love, courage, and independence. Writing became my therapy, a way to process the pain and dream of the future. Rachel visited often, becoming the aunt Lily deserved. She'd bring toys and stories, her guilt over Ethan's actions fading as she bonded with us. One afternoon, As we watched Lily play, Rachel confessed she'd cut contact with Ethan. "He's not the brother I knew," she said, tears in her eyes. I hugged her, grateful for her loyalty. We were rebuilding family, piece by piece, without him. Vanessa sent a letter, apologizing again and sharing her own journey. She'd started therapy, moved to a new city, and was trying to rebuild. "You showed me what strength looks like," she wrote. I didn't reply, but I kept the letter, a reminder that even broken hearts could find redemption. Her role in our story was painful, but her honesty had helped us win. Clara invited us to her son's birthday party, a lively affair filled with laughter and cake. Her son, now a teenager, called me Aunt Emma, a title that warmed my heart. The party was a glimpse of the community I was building: Clara, Rachel, Margaret, Tom, and others who'd become my chosen family. They'd seen me at my lowest and lifted me up, proving that love wasn't bound by blood. One evening, as I rocked Lily to sleep, I got a call from Sarah. Ethan had appealed the verdict, claiming the support payments were unfair. My stomach dropped, but Sarah was unfazed. "He's grasping at straws," she said. "We'll shut this down." The appeal hearing was set for a month later, and I braced myself for another fight. But this time, I wasn't afraid. I'd faced Ethan's lies before, and I'd do it again. The bookstore hosted a community event, and I organized a charity drive for single mothers, inspired by Clara's kindness. Families donated clothes, formula, and toys, and I felt a surge of purpose. Helping others healed me, reminding me that my pain had a purpose. Margaret hugged me after the event, her eyes shining. "You're a force, Emma," she said. I smiled, believing her. As the appeal hearing approached, I prepared with Sarah, my confidence growing. Ethan's appeal was weak, based on technicalities, but I wouldn't underestimate him. I spent evenings with Lily, reading her stories and singing lullabies, drawing strength from her innocent trust. She was my why, my reason to keep fighting. The night before the hearing, Clara came over with pizza and wine. We laughed, reminisced, and toasted to new beginnings. "You're not just Lily's mom," she said. "You're a warrior." Her words carried me to the courthouse, where I'd face Ethan one last time, ready to protect our future. The appeal hearing was quieter than the others, the courtroom's tension muted but palpable. Ethan sat across from me, his face haggard, his suit less pristine than before. Lily, now 6 months old, babbled in my lap, oblivious to the stakes. Sarah presented our case with precision, dismantling Ethan's appeal point by point. His lawyer argued that the support payments were excessive, but Judge Harper's expression was skeptical. "Mr. Carter's actions have consequences," she said, her voice steady. "This court upholds its prior ruling." The appeal was denied, and relief washed over me like a warm tide. Ethan's last attempt to evade responsibility had failed. Sarah squeezed my hand, her smile triumphant. "It's over, Emma," she whispered. I nodded, tears prickling my eyes. Outside, I hugged Rachel, who'd come to support me. "You did it," she said, her voice thick with emotion. I held Lily close, feeling the weight of our victory. We were free. Life in the apartment settled into a rhythm. I decorated with thrift store finds, turning the space into a home. Lily's first tooth appeared, a milestone I celebrated with Clara over cupcakes. The bookstore thrived, and Margaret hinted at making me a partner someday. The idea thrilled me, a chance to build something lasting for Lily and me. Tom, ever the supporter, offered to help with the legal paperwork if it came to that. His grandkids adored Lily, and their playdates became a highlight of our week. Dr. Lee encouraged me to reflect on how far I'd come. In therapy, I revisited the hospital night, but it no longer paralyzed me. "You've reclaimed your narrative," she said. I started a blog, sharing my story anonymously to help other single mothers. The response was overwhelming. Women from across the country reached out, sharing their own struggles. My pain became a beacon, guiding others through their darkness. Rachel and I grew closer, our bond forged in shared resilience. She brought Lily a tiny Seahawks jersey, laughing as we dressed her in it. "She's going to be a fighter, like her mom," she said. We talked about the future, holidays together, trips to the coast, a life where Lily would know love, not abandonment. Ethan's absence faded, replaced by the family we were building. Clara's nursing school friend, a social worker named Mia, connected me with a support group for single parents. The meetings were raw, filled with stories of loss and strength. I shared my journey, from the snowy parking lot to the courtroom victories, and found solace in their nods and tears. One woman, a mother of two, hugged me afterward. "You give me hope," she said. Her words echoed Clara's, reminding me of my impact. Sarah sent a final update. Ethan had moved out of state, likely to avoid the shame. His payments continued, but he'd made no attempt to see Lily. I was okay with that. Lily deserved better than a father who'd walk away. I saved every penny of the support, determined to give her the life Ethan had tried to deny us. College, travel, dreams, she'd have it all. The bookstore's charity drive became an annual event, growing bigger each year. I spoke at the next one, sharing my story publicly for the first time. The crowd applauded, and I felt a surge of pride. Margaret beamed, calling me the heart of the store. Tom, Clara, Rachel, and even Vanessa, who'd sent a donation, were there, cheering me on. My chosen family had grown, their love a shield against the past. One evening, as I tucked Lily into bed, I found a photo of Ethan and me, tucked in an old book. We were young, laughing on a hiking trail, before life got complicated. I didn't cry. I just put it away, a relic of a life I no longer needed. Lily's smile, her tiny hand in mine, was my present, my future. The seasons changed, and Seattle bloomed with spring. I took Lily to the park, watching her giggle on a swing. Clara joined us, her son pushing Lily gently. "You're home," Clara said, her eyes soft. She was right. The hospital parking lot was a distant memory, replaced by love, community, and purpose. As I looked at Lily, her eyes bright with wonder, I knew we'd won more than a court case. We'd won our lives back. Justice had come, not just in the courtroom, but in every moment we chose to thrive. Spring turned to summer, and our little apartment buzzed with life. Lily's first birthday was a milestone, celebrated with a small party. Clara, Rachel, Tom, and Margaret crowded around a homemade cake, singing as Lily smeared frosting on her cheeks. Her laughter filled the room, a sound that drowned out the echoes of that snowy night. I looked around at the faces of my chosen family, their love a testament to our resilience. We'd built something unbreakable. The bookstore became my legacy. Margaret and I formalized a partnership, and I poured my heart into the business. We expanded story time, added a cafe corner, and hosted local authors. The community embraced us, and I felt pride in creating a space where people found connection. Lily toddled among the shelves, her tiny hands reaching for colorful books, and I dreamed of her growing up surrounded by stories and love. My blog grew, too, becoming a platform for single mothers to share their journeys. I published under my real name now, no longer hiding. The messages poured in, women thanking me for giving them courage, for showing them they weren't alone. One reader, a young mother from Tacoma, drove to meet me, tears in her eyes as she hugged me. "You made me believe I could keep going," she said. Her words were a gift, proof that my pain had purpose. Rachel and I planned a trip to the Oregon coast for Lily's second summer. We rented a small cabin, and I watched Lily chase waves, her giggles carried by the sea breeze. Rachel, now a constant in our lives, talked about her own dreams, starting a bakery, maybe, or teaching art. "You inspired me," she said, squeezing my hand. We were healing together, redefining family on our terms. Clara's son graduated high school, and we threw a big party at the bookstore. Mia, the social worker, came, bringing news of a grant for single-parent programs. She'd nominated me to lead it, citing my work with the charity drive. The opportunity was daunting but exciting, a chance to give back on a larger scale. I accepted, determined to make a difference for others like me. Tom, now a grandfather figure to Lily, shared stories of his legal career, inspiring me to take night classes in business management. "You've got a head for it," he said, his eyes twinkling. The classes were hard, balancing work and motherhood, but they gave me confidence. I was building a future, not just for Lily, but for myself. Vanessa sent an email, updating me on her life. She'd started a nonprofit for women recovering from toxic relationships, inspired by our shared experience. "You showed me what's possible," she wrote. I replied, wishing her well, grateful for the strange bond we'd formed. Ethan's betrayal had hurt us both, but it had also sparked our strength. Ethan's name rarely came up anymore. His payments arrived like clockwork, but he remained a ghost. I heard through Rachel that he'd lost his job, his lies catching up with him. I felt no satisfaction, only closure. He'd chosen his path, and I'd chosen mine. Lily didn't need him. She had a village of love around her. One crisp fall day, I took Lily to the hospital where our story began. Not to dwell on the past, but to reclaim it. I stood in the parking lot, now dry and sunlit, holding her hand as she toddled beside me. The pain of that snowy night felt distant, replaced by gratitude for the journey. Clara's kindness, Sarah's fight, Rachel's loyalty, Tom's wisdom, they'd carried us here. At the bookstore's next charity drive, I spoke again, this time with Lily on my hip. The crowd was bigger, their faces a mix of strangers and friends. I shared our story, from the hospital to the courtroom to this moment of triumph. "We're not defined by what breaks us," I said, my voice steady. "We're defined by how we rise." The applause was thunderous, but Lily's smile was my true reward. As I tucked her into bed that night, I whispered a promise. "You'll always be enough." The hospital, the betrayal, the cold, they were part of our story, but not its end. Justice had come, not just in the court's verdict, but in the life we'd built. Lily and I were whole, surrounded by love, ready for whatever came next.